When I was a kid, I knew that I was creative, but sometimes I'd get frustrated that I wasn't creative in all the ways I saw others being creative. Like, I'd see a canvas, paintbrushes, and paint and think to myself, I can do that. But then I'd start and anything that I tried to paint looked more like Picasso on a bad day than the beauty of Van Gogh's Starry Night. Yeah, I'm not very good at painting. And if you look at your kids, I bet at least a few of them feel the same way. They hate being on stage, they have no rhythm, can't play an instrument, or like me, can't draw very well. For whatever reason, many of us have been taught to think about creativity in terms of arts and crafts, music, and dance. But there's something about creativity that we all need to remember. We're not creative because of our talents. We're creative because that's how God made us. God designed each of us with a mind to think beyond ourselves and imagine the possibility for, well, anything. And it's our imagination that actually suggests that God really does exist. Our imagination suggests there is a creator who has designed each of us with a unique ability. It's God's image in us that gives us the capacity to see beyond the ordinary and to understand a dimension of life that a dog, a tree, or a whale cannot experience. We're different from every other species because we are made in God's image. Our imagination, our creativity is connected to it. And when we start to live with that creativity in mind, we begin to see all sorts of possibilities for how God is working in the world and how we can play a part in it. That's why we want to spend the month of August talking about creativity, which we'll define as using your imagination to do something new. We hope to spark creativity this month by reminding every child how they can reflect God's creativity to the world when they put their imagination to work. In week 1, we go back to the very beginning. We'll see how God is the author of creation, from the tiniest molecule to the largest planet out in space and everything in between. God put it all into motion, and it's all amazingly creative. On top of that, people were created in God's image. We have a reflection of God's creativity within us and can use that creativity to join God in changing the world. Bottom line, God created you so you can be creative. In week 2, we'll take a look at something Paul wrote in Ephesians 2:10. It's also our memory verse for the month. We are God's creation. He created us to belong to Christ Jesus. Now we can do good works. Long ago, God prepared these works for us to do. Paul shares with the church of Ephesus about how God created us to belong to Jesus and created us to add goodness to the world. We hope kids start to realize just how God created them to do something awesome that can point others to Jesus. Bottom line, God created you for a purpose. Then in week 3, we'll spend time looking more closely at an important creative moment in Joseph's life. While he experienced many ups and downs throughout his time in Egypt, God cared for Joseph and gave him what he needed to survive the impending famine. Joseph's creative problem solving led to Pharaoh making him second in command for all of Egypt. The plan worked and the people were saved. Bottom line, you can use what God gave you to solve problems. Then in week 4, we see what happens as the Israelites build a place where they can worship God. Moses instructed God's people to build a beautiful traveling tabernacle as a place for God to dwell among them and for them to gather and worship God. God gifted all sorts of artists, wood and metal workers, and sewers to use their creative gifts to worship God. This is a great reminder that we can use how God made us creative to worship God too. Bottom line, use your imagination to honor God. Think about it. No matter how your kids are creatively wired, every parent and leader wants them to live their lives to the fullest. When we really believe we are made in the image of God, we start to see a new set of possibilities for how we can experience life. Our imagination is unleashed and God can use how we're wonderfully made to point people to Jesus.